If someone had told me 2 years ago that my family would burn $20 million in front of me just to feel in control, I would have laughed in their face. Not because they wouldn't do it, but because I never thought I'd be worth that much to them. Turns out, they didn't think I was either. Not until Grandpa changed the rules. Let me back up. I was the quiet one. Not the golden child, that was my older brother Tyler. He was the gifted one. The athlete. The stock trading prodigy. The guy who could crash my mom's car and still get an ice cream on the way home. Me? I was the backup plan. Tyler's the future of the family. My dad used to say, clinking a beer bottle against his glass like he was making a toast at a corporate meeting. You've got a good heart, kid. Just find something stable. I did. Eventually. I found my peace in books, quiet places, a part-time IT job. I wasn't flashy. I didn't fight back. I kept my head down while they passed me over at every turn. Birthday? Forgot. Graduation? Skipped. Tyler had a tennis tournament. When Grandpa Joe got sick, I was the one who visited. Every weekend. No excuses. I brought him soup, old vinyls, and a stack of crossword puzzles. We didn't talk much about the family. He already knew. He'd seen the favoritism. He'd lived it. I see everything, kid, he told me once while sipping black coffee with a shaking hand. They think I'm senile. Joke's on them. I thought he was just venting. I had no idea he was planning the most elaborate final move of his entire life. Grandpa Joe passed last fall. Peacefully, quietly. The funeral was full of people who hadn't seen him in years suddenly acting like he was their favorite person. My parents were at the center of it, giving speeches, shaking hands, hinting about the legacy they would carry forward. Tyler even wore a suit that matched Grandpa's favorite tie color. I knew it was for optics. For inheritance. For show. I didn't say much. Just stood near the back. Let them perform. A week later, I got a call from Grandpa's lawyer, Mr. Langston. You should attend the will reading, he said. Your grandfather left something specific for you. In person. I blinked. I thought everything was going to my parents. There was a pause. Then the kind of chuckle you only hear from an 80-year-old who knows something no one else does. Let's just say, things changed. I arrived at the law office 2 days later. It was an old building with leather chairs, oak paneling, an air that smelled like aged money and buried family drama. My parents were already there. Tyler too. All smug grins and polite tension. They looked genuinely surprised to see me. You're here? My mom said, eyebrows raised. Mr. Langston walked in, sat down, and opened a thick manila envelope. I'll be reading the will as per Mr. Joseph Ellis' instructions. Please refrain from interruptions. The first 10 minutes were what I expected, a few donations to charities, some property details, a vintage record collection to a jazz museum. Then he got to me. To my grandson, who showed up when no one else did, I leave a cashier's check in the amount of $20 million. The room went dead silent. I heard a sharp intake of breath. I didn't look at anyone. Just stared at Mr. Langston as he pulled out an envelope, slim, white, sealed. My name written on the front in Grandpa's handwriting. I hadn't cried at the funeral. But I felt the lump in my throat then. Mr. Langston handed it to me. This is yours. I hadn't even opened it before my dad snapped. Hold on, that must be a mistake. That money was supposed to go to the family. Mr. Langston didn't flinch. It did. To the one person Joseph considered family. Tyler's mouth was open, his leg bouncing under the table. My mom looked like someone had slapped her with a fish. My dad turned to me. Give it here. I shook my head. Slowly. He stepped forward. I said, give it to me. I held the envelope tighter. That's when it happened. My mom lunged forward, grabbed the envelope from my hand, and before I could react, she pulled a lighter out of her purse like this was some kind of mob movie. Flick. Flame. They lit it. and threw it into a metal trash can beside the conference table. The paper curled, blackened, turned to ash. No, my dad sneered, arms folded. No one gets it. Tyler smirked behind him. Mr. Langston just leaned back in his chair and smiled. And I couldn't stop laughing. Because the check they destroyed wasn't real. Let me clarify something. I didn't laugh because it wasn't painful. I laughed because it was predictable. The moment my mom struck that lighter, I knew who they really were, not just selfish, not just greedy, but so drunk on control they were willing to set $20 million on fire just to prove they could. But what they didn't know was that they'd burned a decoy I printed at an Office Depot the night before. I glanced at Mr. Langston. He was grinning behind his glasses like a man watching a trap spring shut. Just as your grandfather requested, he said slowly, folding his hands. That envelope contained a ceremonial placeholder. The actual transfer was completed last week. My parents froze. I don't understand. My mom stammered, staring into the now smoking trash can like she just murdered someone. Mr. Langston continued calm as ever. Joseph knew you might react, emotionally. So the official funds were wired directly into a private trust in your grandson's name. The check was symbolic. Tyler looked like someone had deleted his entire crypto portfolio. My dad's voice cracked as he leaned forward. You mean, he still gets the money? Mr. Langston nodded. Correct. In fact, he already has access to the account. Joseph instructed me to confirm the deposit once you had, quote, revealed your true character one last time. I couldn't even pretend to be surprised. Grandpa Joe had planned this. He'd known. I stood there in the middle of the boardroom while the ashes of a fake check curled at my parents' feet and realized this was my moment. Not to gloat. Not to rub it in. Just to say the thing I never had the power to say. I came here out of respect for Grandpa, I said quietly. I didn't need to, I already had everything I needed. But I showed up. Just like I always did. The rest of you? You showed up to collect. Not to honor him. You little. My dad started. Mr. Langston held up a hand. I'd advise you to stop. Everything is being recorded. They looked at him like he'd pulled out a gun. The camera is in the frame above the fireplace, he added helpfully. Per Mr. Ellis' instructions. In case anyone tried to interfere. My mom's hands were trembling now. She glanced at Tyler, who looked like he was about to throw up. The room was still for a long, awkward moment. Then my mom whispered, This isn't fair. He was our father. We were supposed to. To what? I snapped. Get rewarded for forgetting his birthday 3 years in a row? For showing up only when he started coughing blood? My dad's jaw clenched. You don't deserve that money. No, I said, stepping back. I earned it. Mr. Langston slid over a folder. There's also a letter. I opened it. Inside, in Grandpa's handwriting. If they're reading this over your shoulder, I'm sorry. I wanted you to have the last laugh. You earned it. You showed up. You listened. You made an old man's final years feel seen. That money's yours, fair and square. But more importantly, so is your freedom. Don't let them guilt you out of it. I folded the letter slowly. Put it in my jacket. My parents said nothing else. For once. I walked to the door, hand on the knob, when Tyler finally spoke. You think this makes you better than us? I didn't turn around. But I did smile. No. Just better off. And then I left. For the first time in my life, I walked away with all the power, and no guilt. I didn't drive home. I walked. Through the parking lot, down the street, past the gas station my dad once made me work at for free because it'll teach you responsibility. It wasn't lost on me that the last time I walked these streets, I was the invisible one, the afterthought. The kid who quietly made dinner for himself when no one remembered he was home. The background character in the perfect family narrative they loved to present. But not anymore. By the time I got back to my apartment, my phone had already started lighting up. Missed call, Dad, 2x. Voicemail, Mom. Text, Tyler. You think this is over? You're not the only one who knows how to lawyer up. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat on the edge of my couch and opened my banking app. I'd already checked it once that morning, but seeing the numbers again made it real. $20 million. Even the zeros looked different. Like a silent exhale. No conditions. No shared access. No trustees breathing down my neck. Just clean money in a trust, structured to protect it from exactly the kind of people I shared a last name with. Grandpa had made sure of that. I texted Mr. Langston a simple, "Thank you," he replied. "Your grandfather planned this for years. He just needed to be sure you'd stay true to yourself. You did." For the next few days, I didn't leave my apartment. Not because I was afraid, but because I was decompressing. From the chaos. From the past. From a lifetime of never being chosen. Meanwhile, my parents went into meltdown mode. I didn't have to guess, it was all over Facebook. My mom posted a vague, heartbreaking betrayal status paired with an old baby photo of me. The caption read, "It's always the quiet ones who surprise you the most. Praying for healing during this difficult time." Broken heart, folded hands. And Sheila commented, "What happened? You were supposed to get the estate?" My mom replied, "Some things are too painful to say online. Just know the truth always comes out." It was classic damage control. Keep the story vague enough so people fill in the blanks with sympathy. But then something unexpected happened. People started replying with facts. Julie, my cousin, the only relative who never treated me like wallpaper, commented, "Wasn't the will reading recorded? Didn't you literally burn the check like it was your moment on Succession?" A family friend replied, "I heard the grandson was the only one who visited him in hospice. Didn't know he had anyone else." My mom deleted the post the next morning. Then the text started again. "Mom, you humiliated us. Do you know how this looks? Me. Like justice. Dad, you can't just cut off your family. Me. You did that already. I just stopped pretending otherwise. Tyler, I hope you enjoy that money. Let's see how long it takes you to burn it without people like us helping." I wanted to laugh. People like them had done nothing but hold me back. But now I had something they'd never understand. A fresh start. Not just financially, emotionally, logistically, mentally. I wasn't a millionaire who won the lottery. I was a survivor who finally got the tools to build something new. And I was just getting started. They say money changes people. But really, it just reveals who they've always been, especially when they think they're owed it. And my parents? They didn't want the money. They wanted the control that came with it. A week after the will reading, I got a certified letter. Legal stationery. Fancy signature. The kind of envelope designed to feel threatening. It was a formal request for amicable reallocation of inherited assets. In plain English? We'd like to sit down and discuss how you can split the money more fairly across the family. No apology. No humility. Just fake formality and veiled entitlement. I forwarded the letter to Mr. Langston. He called me 5 minutes later, chuckling. "Your grandfather anticipated this. There's a clause in the trust, airtight. They have no legal claim to assent. But they're welcome to keep paying lawyers to learn that the hard way." "Let them," I said. He paused. "You sure?" I was. Let them waste money trying to claw back something they never earned. Let them exhaust every legal trick in the book only to end up with exactly what they left me growing up, nothing. Meanwhile, I was busy making decisions. Big ones. First I moved. Nothing ridiculous, just a clean, quiet place in a better neighborhood, away from the suffocating familiarity of the town where I'd spent most of my life trying not to be seen. Next, I hired a financial planner. A real one, not some TikTok dude with stock tips and caffeine jitters. This guy had a PhD in finance, a wall of credentials, and more spreadsheets than a NASA launch room. We set up an investment portfolio, structured a few low-risk income streams, and created a philanthropic fund in Grandpa's name, the Joseph Ellis Memorial Grant. You want to start a charity? The planner asked. Not exactly. I want to help kids like me. Ones who were written off. Ones who spent their childhoods being overlooked in favor of flashier siblings. Kids who know what it's like to earn everything and be told it still wasn't enough. He nodded. We can do that. Within a month, the first round of scholarship applications opened. And here's the part that made me feel like I'd won something bigger than the check. One of the first applicants? A kid from my old high school. His last name? Ellis. My cousin's son. He wrote an essay about feeling invisible in a house that only celebrated loud voices. About how he taught himself coding on a school Chromebook because no one at home noticed when he stopped showing up for dinner. I read it 3 times. Then I approved the grant with a single sentence. He gets it. Meanwhile, the smear campaign kicked into full swing. My mom cornered people at church. My dad posted a full rant online claiming legal manipulation and a grandson poisoned against his family by greed. Tyler went live on Instagram talking about financial injustice and what it's like to be betrayed by your own blood. He was wearing a Rolex during the video. The comments dragged him so hard he turned them off within an hour. That's when I knew. They were losing. Not just the money. The narrative. They lost the one thing they never expected, the ability to define how this story ended. And I hadn't even said a word publicly. Yet. It was only a matter of time before they sued me. I saw it coming a mile away. The tantrum disguised as a legal filing. The last desperate gasp from people who thought blood meant entitlement with interest. The lawsuit arrived in a thick envelope, couriered to my new address, which they should not have had. It alleged fraudulent influence over a vulnerable elderly individual, and claimed I had manipulated my grandfather into altering his will for personal gain. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so pathetic. They were accusing me, the only one who actually showed up for Grandpa in his final years, of elder abuse. The same people who didn't visit him once in hospice unless there was a photo op or a checkbook nearby. I forwarded the documents to Mr. Langston. His reply? Oh good, they took the bait. I called him immediately. What bait? He explained, his voice cool, steady, almost amused. Joseph instructed me to keep certain records sealed unless a formal claim was filed. Now that they've gone legal, everything's in play. Like what? Phone calls. Video logs. Handwritten journals. Full financials. And a private deposition he recorded in my office 3 months before his death. I froze. He recorded a deposition? He knew your parents better than anyone. He expected them to do exactly this. He said, and I quote, if they tried to come for the money, you'd give them the truth. Publicly. I swallowed hard. So, what now? No, Langston said. We let them walk into the woodchipper. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. I kept quiet. I didn't post. I didn't respond. I let them spin their tale online, the ungrateful son, the twisted grandson, the family destroyer. My mom even did a podcast interview, talking about how our family was torn apart by greed and betrayal. Tyler reposted the clip with a crying emoji. Meanwhile, I was preparing something better. See, Grandpa's video deposition wasn't just a generic I love my grandson statement. It was a scorched earth testimonial. In it, he laid out exactly why he changed his will. He listed dates and examples, how many times I visited, the conversations we had, the promises I never asked him to make. He recited specific things my parents said about him, cruel things, dismissive things, some of which they'd said to his face. Then he looked into the camera and said calmly, I am of sound mind. And if they claim otherwise, you show them this. They were never around. He was. End of story. Mr. Langston sent me a copy. I watched it alone in my apartment. I cried twice. Not because of the money, but because someone, finally, had gone to bat for me. Had put it on record that I was more than just the quiet background character. The court date came. They showed up dressed like they were auditioning for Succession, local edition. My mom in pearls. My dad in a suit 2 decades too tight. Tyler in sunglasses inside the courthouse. They expected a private hearing. Mr. Langston had filed a motion to make the deposition public record. The judge approved it. And just like that, the whole thing went viral. Local news picked it up. Then Reddit. Then TikTok. Clips of Grandpa's deposition hit 1 million views in 2 days. My grandson didn't steal anything. He earned everything. I'm proud of him. My mom deleted her podcast episode within hours. Tyler's comments section turned into a war zone. My dad tried to pivot. It was never about the money. But nobody bought it. Especially after the footage aired of them burning the fake check at the will reading, followed by Mr. Langston saying, "That wasn't the real one." People turned the whole thing into a meme. The burning check. Tyler's sunglasses. My dad's red face. Grandpa's calm voice calling them out. For once, I didn't have to say anything. The truth spoke louder than they ever could. Money can buy a lot of things, but not dignity. And my parents had lost all of theirs trying to destroy me. After the deposition went public, their reputations imploded like wet paper in a thunderstorm. People who used to praise their tight-knit family values suddenly went silent. The church community turned cold. My mom's podcast lost half its sponsors in a week. My dad got dropped from a local business association. Tyler? He rebranded his Instagram to Mental Health Recovery and posted a selfie captioned, "Taking time to heal after family betrayal." Top comment? "Didn't you like the check?" That one got over 12,000 likes. He turned off comments 40 minutes later. Me? I stayed quiet. Not out of fear. Out of strategy. While they tried to control the narrative, I built something that didn't need one. Something real. I started with the Joseph Ellis Center, a vision Grandpa and I had once joked about during one of our late coffee chats, back when we both still had hoped the family might change. It would be a space for the kids who never got picked first. The overlooked ones. The quiet ones who never had a cheerleader in their corner. Free tutoring. Resume help. Therapy access. Warm meals. No gatekeeping. Just a place to breathe and believe again. I hired a local contractor, not some flashy firm. People from the community. A few of my old classmates, actually. I watched them tear down a rusted basketball hoop and start laying foundation on the plot I bought just outside the town's forgotten edge, a place that had become symbolic of all the people it had failed. At the groundbreaking, I invited the real family. Not the ones who shared my name, the ones who showed up. Mr. Langston was there, dressed sharp as ever, despite the dust and humidity. Julie, my cousin, who had defended me online when everyone else stayed silent. Carter, my high school best friend, who once gave me a sandwich when I hadn't eaten in 18 hours because my parents forgot payday wasn't for another week. We stood there, shovels in hand, and said nothing for a moment. Then Langston handed me a wooden plaque. On it, carved into the grain. For the quiet one. Who never needed to be loud to be powerful. I didn't cry. Not there. I waited until I was home, alone, holding the plaque with one hand and scrolling through the grant applications with the other. I'd created a scholarship fund in Grandpa's name too. Quiet. No press. No fancy campaign. Just a button buried on the community center's website. One of the first applicants. A teenager from my old high school. Last name, Ellis. My cousin's son. In his essay, he wrote about learning to code on a school Chromebook in the corner of the library. About feeling like he had to shrink himself so his brother, louder, meaner, could shine. About how he didn't know people like him were allowed to ask for help. I sat with that essay for 20 minutes. Then I clicked approve and wrote a single sentence in the notes. He gets it. Meanwhile, back on social media, my parents were circling the drain. My mom cornered people at church. My dad started floating rumors about deepfakes and video editing. Tyler posted a poll. Should inheritance be split by age or merit? It got ratioed into oblivion. Then came the final straw. They listed our old family house for sale. Yep. The same house they once told me I wasn't welcome to visit anymore unless I contributed. Apparently they needed the cash. But no one would touch it. Too infamous. Too poisoned by Google results. 3 months later, it went off the market. Quietly. That's when I made my move. I bought it in cash. Didn't even flinch at the price. Didn't tell a soul, not even Carter. Until the papers were signed and the key was in my hand. And then? I invited my parents to a private showing. They showed up wearing their best fake smiles. My mom had on her signature pearls, the same ones she wore to every church fundraiser, baby shower, and fake apology tour. My dad looked like he was trying to cosplay as business casual, but the blazer he squeezed into had clearly been retired during the Obama years. No Tyler this time. Probably still licking his wounds from Instagram humiliation. They had no idea what they were walking into. I met them at the front steps of the house, their house, technically. The one I grew up in. The one they gutted emotionally long before I ever walked away from it. Thanks for coming, I said. They stopped. Blinked. My mom looked me up and down. We didn't realize you were the agent. I'm not, I said. I'm the owner. The way her mouth snapped shut, you'd think someone cut the battery out of a talking toy. You what? I bought the house. Why? My dad's tone was a mix of suspicion and dread, like someone who just realized the GPS voice they ignored led them straight into a ditch. Because I could, I said. Because it was on the market. And because the idea of someone else living here without ever knowing the kind of ghosts that roamed these walls made me sick. They were still standing frozen on the porch when I pushed the door open. Come in. It's a showing. You're the only ones who'll ever get to see it. The house looked nothing like the one they left behind. New floors. Modern fixtures. Kitchen completely gutted and rebuilt. I replaced the cabinets my mom used to call homey, but were really just water-stained and outdated. Even the lighting had changed. Warmer now. Soft. But the biggest difference? The silence. The house wasn't angry anymore. It wasn't tight in the chest. It wasn't filled with the tension of forced dinners and cold shoulders. It had been cleared. My dad walked the hallway like a man trying to remember where he'd buried something. My mom touched the marble countertop like it might bite her. They didn't say a word at first, like the house itself was betraying them for siding with me. She found the brochure I left on the table. Minimalist cover. Black ink on thick paper. The back read, "Some things can be bought back. Others are better rebuilt." She looked at me, then read it again. Slower. "What do you want from us?" she asked finally. Her voice was different now, not performative, not smug, not even bitter. Just tired. Like the act had worn off. Like she knew she'd lost, and she didn't even know what the scoreboard said anymore. I looked her dead in the eyes. "Nothing." She blinked. My dad crossed his arms. "So what, this is revenge?" "No," I said. "This is closure." I walked past them and leaned on the wall by the window, the one I used to sit against when I was a teenager, trying to drown out the sound of them arguing about how I wasn't applying myself. "This place raised me," I said. "But you didn't." "Not really. I did that part myself. Grandpa helped. Carter helped. Books helped. But you too? You just lived here. You weren't part of the building." I gestured around. "And now? I've rebuilt it without you." My mom shook her head. "We made mistakes, but..." "Mistakes?" I snapped. "You burned what you thought was a $20 million check just to prove you could still control me. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. They went quiet. There wasn't much else to say. You used to say this house was where everything started, I said, walking them toward the door. Well, now it's where it ends. For you. We reached the front step again. I paused, then added, You built a house. I built a life. That's the difference. I opened the door. I wanted you to see what healing looks like. Not revenge. Not rage. Just freedom. I own this place now, the walls, the land, the story. I stepped aside. And now you don't. My mom stepped out first, stiff. My dad followed, slow. They didn't say goodbye. I closed the door. And for the first time since I was a kid, the house felt mine. I framed the fake check. Hung it in the entryway. Below it, a little plaque. They said I'd never see a cent. Every time I walk by it, I remember who I am now, not the forgotten kid in the background. Not the disappointment. Not the fallback plan. Just the man who took the fire they lit and built a future out of the ashes.